8 in a row for your boy Uncle Lou. 8 straight dubs for your boy Uncle Lou over Tard Nation. Shout out to the Hill Jacks and the Voltars that are tuned in today after yet another absolute beatdown. The hands of Uncle Lou. Not sure when y'all will learn. I've already seen the comments today about the wait till next year speech that y'all give every year. I tell you, y'all never fail to disappoint in terms of being the dumbest fan base on the planet. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the Your Season Is Over video, Week 12, 2024 edition. Anything funny happened yesterday? I don't know. We're going to try to figure it out in today's video. This is the only Sunday afternoon college football recap video that actually matters. That's right. You can tune in all over the place and hear about how great other teams looked and, highlight plays and amazing ending, whatever, all that crap that they force feed you on ESPN and some of these watered down, half melted bowls of ice cream that they call YouTube channels. But that's not what you get here. Nope. This is the Point and Laugh special every Sunday where we highlight the list of losers. And holy moly, do we have an absolute smorgasbord of human feces attached to the wall today. I can't wait to get to it. Of course, we're going to talk about the losers. I've got a list of teams that won yesterday and looked good. I've got a list of teams that won yesterday and don't look so good, if you know what I'm saying. We're going to talk about the best teams I saw play yesterday. I've got the Heisman list for you. I've got the juice, poot. I bet you it was Louisville. Yep, look. I got a story on that in a second. I got a story on that Louisville helmet and 2 other helmets in a second. Juice Poot special. Where were we? Well, let's just look at my handy dandy notes. 1, 2, 3 pages of notes today. Wow. Got the updated We're Back list. We got the good wins, the bad wins, the best teams I saw play yesterday. We've got the Heisman list. We've got the Juice Poot special I'll give you. And conference championship matchups as according to yours truly, Uncle Lou. Let's start out. Copious notes in that. Where should we start today? Serious question. This is to non-Georgia fans and non-Tennessee fans. So basically everyone else. Do you feel sorry for their fans? I'm just asking. I'm not even going to add any context to that question. Just do you feel sorry for them? I don't feel sorry for them at all. I'll talk about the game in a second. Tennessee fans, well, let me preface, before I get on what I'm about to say, let me preface it this way, because I don't always say this, and then sometimes people assume the wrong thing. When I talk about a group of fans, I am never talking about all of them, okay? It's never a 100% deal. In fact, there's some great Tennessee fans that have been around this channel for a long time, going back to 2015 and 2016, the last time Tennessee beat Georgia. And they've been here every year. And they talk their trash during the season leading up to the game. And then when the game is over, they congratulate the better team and they keep it moving. That's not who I'm talking about. Unfortunately, for those Tennessee fans, y'all are in the minority of your fan base. Once again, the Tennessee fan base has proven beyond the shadow of a doubt to be the worst subset of human being on planet Earth. They are incapable of any type of decency. They are the worst of what mankind has to offer. The majority of Tennessee fans, not a small, loud minority, but a vocal majority. Not all of them. And look, if you're one of the good guys here, then you know that. And you don't have to bother being upset about me pointing out the obvious about the other section of your fan base, which is that they're pieces of fucking garbage. And they continue to prove that year after year with the way they act behind their perceived protection that the internet they think the internet gives them. But Tennessee got their absolute ass beat yesterday by a better team, the Georgia Bulldogs. Final score, 31-17. Tennessee got out to a 10-0 lead in this thing in the first quarter. They then proceeded to get outscored 31-7 after the first quarter and just got absolutely destroyed. And it shouldn't be a surprise. If you go back and watch really the last 2 or 3 years worth of Georgia versus Tennessee games, they have pretty much followed the same script. Tennessee scores early, and then they don't score again. That's just how it has been for Tennessee under Josh Heupel. We can go on and round till we're blue in the fucking face about whether or not Tennessee is better today than they were 10 years ago or under Butch Jones or Derek Dooley or Jerome Pruitt or wherever else. And those are valid debates to have. But every single year when John Hopeful plays Georgia, the result is exactly the fucking same. You can't do a goddamn thing. You can't get a first down. You can't score. You can't tackle. You can't pass. You can't catch. You can't do anything. You can't stay on sides. You can't help but turning the ball over. You can't stop committing penalties. And mainly, you can't fucking score. Every single year when we play Tennessee, the outcome is the same. They score in the beginning. I think it was last year. They scored on the first drive and didn't score again. Again, they scored 2 touchdowns against Georgia. Tennessee under John Heupel has never scored more than 2 touchdowns in a game against UGA, ever. Kirby Smart has the Tennessee offense figured out, and it's been that way from the beginning. From the absolute beginning. Dylan Sampson had 100 yards. That's great. But we're going to talk more about Dylan Sampson when we get to the Heisman part, Tennessee, man. So don't run off. I got you covered on when we get to the Heisman part. We'll talk about Dylan Sampson. It might not be what you want to hear exactly, but we'll talk about it. But Tennessee, you got your ass beat, period. You couldn't protect your quarterback, and you couldn't complete passes. On the other side of the ball, you couldn't get to Carson Beck. Carson Beck was sacked 0 times. Nico was sacked 5 times. Georgia didn't run the ball great, but they ran the ball enough to where Tennessee couldn't just load up and pass the rusher on every single play. Georgia's not a great running team this year. This isn't a shock or a surprise. It shouldn't be anyway. I told you all week exactly how the game was going to go, and that's how it went. I told you it didn't matter whether Nico played quarterback or not. Because Tennessee can't throw the ball or wouldn't be able to throw the ball. And guess what? Tennessee couldn't throw the ball. I told you it didn't matter about ETN being out at running back for Georgia. They can't run the ball. And guess what? They didn't run the ball very good. But they threw it all over you, and there was nothing you could do. Tight ends for Georgia have caught 4 passes just in the short amount of time I've been recording this video. There's nothing you could do. You got absolutely dominated and humiliated by a better team, a better program, a better coach, and a better fan base. And most importantly, you got dominated by Uncle Lou for the 8th fucking year in a row. I'm writing you off on my taxes again this year. Thank you. Thank you. You're nothing but a fucking write-off to me. That's all you are. Tennessee had 167 passing yards. Whoopity fucking do. They did have, 152 yards rushing. That's pretty good. Georgia, on the other hand, 347 yards passing and 106 yards rushing. So again, is that lighting the world on fire for Georgia, 106 rushing? No. But it's good enough to get the job done. It's good enough to keep Tennessee guessing. And that's all we needed to do. We just needed Tennessee to respect the idea that we might run the ball. And we were able to do that. And Carson Beck picked you apart. Picked you apart. Embarrassing. Embarrassing. Even more embarrassing that you expected something different to happen. Carson Beck, 0 turnovers. In fact, Georgia didn't have any turnovers. More on that in a minute, too. Georgia sacked 0 times. Nico sacked 5 times, 31-7 after the first quarter. What is this shit I'm hearing about referees, the crowd, smoke, ESPN, Greg Sankey, Kirk Herbstreit? Are y'all going to... Let me ask you something. How far down the list of fucking excuses do I have to go before I hear the name John Hopeful? Or Nico? Or your offensive line? Or your secondary? Or your linebackers? How far down the list of fucking excuses do I have to get from Tard Nation the Hill Jacks, before I start getting to the real fucking root of the problem that you dumbasses have. Your secondary got eaten alive. Your linebackers couldn't cover average tight ends. You couldn't, this so-called greatest defensive front in all of college football couldn't lay a finger on Carson fucking Beck. And a quarterback that's supposed to be winning 3 Heismans, 4 national titles, 5 Nobel Peace Prizes, and a presidential election didn't do a goddamn thing. In fact, he's lucky he was able to leave that game on his own 2 fucking feet. He likely got carried out of that bitch in a stretcher. He never should have been playing. Anybody going to ask John Hopeful about that? This guy didn't know where he was from the word go. And I'm not even shit talking. Believe me, there's plenty of things I can shit talk Nico about. I'm not shit talking here. This guy shouldn't have been playing. I haven't seen a coach play a player out of pure desperation like that. The last time I saw something like that was about 10 years ago when Dabo on the road somewhere before he had won any national titles made, was it Deshaun Watson? Was it Deshaun Watson or was it the one before that he made play with a torn ACL in a game? Because it was a must-win game. Oh, get out there, hobble around, do the best you can. The guy's out there on one fucking leg, running around. Remember, the Clemson fans watching, correct me with which quarterback that was. And he was on the road, and it was clear he shouldn't have been out there. And he goes out there, and the defense gets a hold of him and slings him down on the ground, and he bumps his head. And now he's got a concussion, and they take him out of the game for the concussion, and then come to find out he had a torn ACL. Y'all knew he had a torn ACL. He shouldn't have been playing. But it was a must-win game, and Dabo felt the pressure, so he made him to play. And that's what happened here with Nico. The guy shouldn't have been playing. He got knocked the fuck out last week. He shouldn't have been playing. And worst of all, you played him for nothing because it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered. You see this seat right here, Tennessee, man? If you have one anywhere where you're at right now, cop a squat, buddy. Uncle Lou's got to tell you some news you're not going to want to hear, and you're going to need to be sitting down when you do hear it. Nico's not very good, and DJ Lagway is a lot better. DJ Lagway is so much better than Nico, it's not even funny. It's hard to believe how wrong y'all were about Nico. I have never seen a fan base hype up a below average QB like I have Tennessee and Nico. Never, ever, ever. What did Nico wear after the game? Pajamas or a dress? That's the only 2 things I've ever seen him wear outside of a football uniform. Either pajama pants or that dress that he wears. And yeah, I know, cultural, he's Polynesian or whatever the fuck. And that's what they wear. That's fine. But it's a fucking dress. That's all I'm saying. The culture that the dress comes from is irrelevant, Uncle Lou. I'm just asking. Did he wear the pajama pants after the game or did he wear the dress? Let Uncle Lou know. I need to know. Tennessee sucks. Tennessee's dog shit. They're never winning anything ever again. 1998 is going to live for fucking ever. Forever. 26 years since you last won the SEC. Absolutely pitiful. You haven't won the conference since last century. Not winning it this year. Not even playing for the conference championship again this year. Absolutely pathetic. You haven't even played for the SEC championship since 2007. You're an irrelevant fucking program. You're an irrelevant fucking program. You going to the Citrus Bowl or the Birmingham Bowl or the fucking Pop-Tart Bowl or the Outback Bowl or the Music City Bowl or whatever bowl game ain't hosting no playoff. That's where the fuck you'll be. And that's where the fuck you belong, too. You don't belong in the upper echelon of college football. Blaming the referees because you don't understand the fucking rules of college football. The quarterback is no different than any other position when it comes to pre-snap motion, you retard. A quarterback is allowed to move before the snap. He can't move forward. Just like a wide receiver going in motion across the formation can't move forward. They can move laterally and backwards. What in the absolute fuck is wrong with you? It's one thing like on a targeting call or a pass interference, one of these like judgment calls, for a fan base to think the referee got the call wrong, one of these 50-50 bang-bang plays. But in the case of the Tennessee idiot, just not understanding basic fucking rules of football pisses me to fuck off. I bet you know how many fouls it takes to foul out of a college basketball game, though. I bet you know that. I bet you can explain the infield fly rule in painstaking fucking detail, but you don't know a goddamn thing about football, and neither does your team. They're not any good at it either. Fuck you. Florida State lost again. They were on a bye week, but they had another couple of decommitments. Mike Norvell fired half his staff. The same staff that was 13-1 the year before with an ACC title. And the fans are falling for it. The fans are falling for it. They're like, these are just the moves we needed. It's about time he shook up that staff and got rid of the dead weight. Same dead weight that had you 13-1 the year before with an ACC title and a 60-point loss to Georgia in the 63-3 y'all lost. The worst beating in the history of bowl games. We've been playing bowl games for 100 fucking years. Worst beating. So that same staff fired them all, and the fan base is, oh yeah, that's it now. 100-0 next year. 100-0. Your recruiting class is falling apart. You've probably lost another recruit since I woke up this morning. You lost another one last week. But no, it's not Mike Norvell's fault though. Oh, yeah, I gotta keep him. Get rid of the fucking coordinator or the whatever the fuck. Get rid of your palm strengthening coach. You still got players sitting out with bruised fucking palms. How do you lose to the bye week? I don't know. But if anybody can do it, Florida State can, and they did. Your defense played pretty well per normal last week, but your offense, non-existent. 0 yards rushing last week for Florida State. 0 yards passing. Fucking pitiful. And you lost to the bye week. All right. BYU. LSU, and the Lou. I actually just now realized that. Let's do that again. The BYU, the LSU, and the Lou. All three of these helmets keep falling down constantly. We talked about it yesterday on the live stream. I rehung all the helmets yesterday that I've been having problems with. Rehung them all. These are, people have asked me, so let me just fucking point it out. It's hard to see. That's a command hook. Okay? That's a command hook. That's what I use to hang these helmets on the wall. So everybody that asks me that 100 times a week, command hooks. But for whatever reason, and I've had to replace several of them throughout the course of the year, when they lose their stickiness, whatever. But, over the weekend, I rehung a lot of the helmets that I've had problems with getting loose on the wall or whatever. And for some reason, no matter how many times I replaced the hook or the sticker, Louisville, the BYU, and LSU just kept falling. And guess what? All three of those fucking deadbeats lost yesterday, including Louisville. Might as well put it over here too. Louisville lost to whatever can of corn they played. I don't even remember. But Louisville lost too. But where were we at? Oh, yeah, the BYU. So the BYU. Oh, and I don't, again, when people don't know football, how are you a huge BYU fan, but you're getting offended when I say BYU? The quarterback literally said he wants people to call him that. Your quarterback literally said that on national television. How are you a BYU fan and you don't know that your fucking quarterback is Jewish? I'm not making this shit up, people. Come on, man. Do better. I didn't make the shit up. It's not, look, if a Jewish person who plays for BYU looks at you and goes, I like being called the BYU, and then I call him the BYU, no, it's not anti-Semitic. Fuck your feelings. Fuck your football ignorance. Fuck your taint, whatever. BYU. Get mad, unsubscribe, I don't give a fuck. BYU lost. That's the bad news. Good news, it really didn't affect their chances to make the playoffs at all. At all. I mean, look, the reality is there's not a single team in the Big 12 who is one of the best 12 teams in the country. That's just a fact. Not BYU, not Kansas State, not Arizona State, not Iowa State, not Colorado, not whatever other team. None of them. But one of them's going to get in because of the guaranteed berth with the conference title game. The BYU had 0 losses. Everybody else in the conference has 2, except for Colorado, who has 1. So BYU, instead of being in first place by themselves, is still tied for first. So in that regard, it didn't fucking matter. But it did matter in that you lost to Kansas, who has a losing fucking record. You lost to Kansas 17-13. BYU just never able to get anything going in this game offensively. You had more. Kansas is 4-6. I know their quarterback is back. Look, and I like Jalen Daniels, and I talked about him a lot in the offseason. And Kansas has been disappointing, but, I know he got hurt and all that, but okay, whatever. But he's back now. You did manage to have more passing yards and rushing yards than Kansas as a team, but you still lost. Each team one interception. BYU had one fumble. That was the difference in the game. And then you had the weird shit at the end with the punt. I guess you didn't know whether they were going to punt it. It was one of these quick kicks. You know what I'm talking about? Where the quarterback is the one that actually punched the ball. So Kansas did that. Kansas was trying to pin the BYU back deep. They were in BYU territory. And the quarterback, the offensive formation, but the quarterback punted the ball on fourth down. You've seen teams do this before. They call it the quick kick. Well, I guess they forgot to tell the Kansas wide receiver that or something. I don't know. Anyway, the punt hits him. It's a big mess. Or the BYU DB, it hits him. Anyway, big mess, fumble down there by the goal line. Kansas falls on it. They go in and score. Game over. Shout out to the BYU. Shout out to the BYU on that. But yeah, BYU had more pass yards, more rush yards, but somehow lost. BYU falls to 9-1. Kansas now 4-6. I already told you each team one interception. BYU to one fumble cost them the game. Kansas quarterback Jaden Daniels the quick kick there at the end, trying to pin BYU deep. Instead, it hits off a BYU player. Kansas recovers, goes on to score the game-winning touchdown, and that was kind of it there. So, but the BYU can still get to the Big 12 title game, which means they could still, in theory, get to the playoffs. So as far as like where the BYU will fall in this week's playoff rankings, don't know. And again, it doesn't matter. They don't have to be in the top 12 as long as they win the Big 12. And we all know they're only getting one team in. So, and I've got conference championship scenarios again for you this week at the end of the video. But I can tell you as of right now, BYU one loss, Colorado one loss, and then a handful of teams with two losses. So if the season ended now, it would be BYU versus Colorado in the Big 12 title. But the season doesn't end now. They all have two more conference games left. And they're not guaranteed wins in either case for BYU or for Colorado. So if either team loses another game, then you're going to have several teams with two losses, and then it goes to weird tiebreak scenarios. We'll get into that at the end of the video when we talk about conference championship games. But yeah, Tennessee, Florida State, BYU, your season is over. Your season is over, at least for the purposes of this video. Kansas State, speaking of the Big 12. All right, it's official. I told y'all I'm riding the Kansas State train until it's basically mathematically impossible for me to be wrong. And they lost their third fucking game yesterday. And not only that, they lost the game because my boy, Avery Johnson, could not throw the ball to his own fucking team. God, I've been hyping this guy up, and it hasn't worked out for me or Kansas State. They lost 24-14 to Arizona State. Now, to be fair, and I know a lot of people maybe aren't paying that much attention to the Big 12, and this is a compliment to South Carolina, not an insult. Arizona State in the Big 12 right now is a lot like South Carolina in the SEC. In other words, they lost some games early in the year, and people kind of quit paying attention and wrote them off. But right now, they're playing some of the best football in the conference. That's Arizona State. That's also South Carolina. Now, South Carolina's got 3 losses, so they played themselves out of anything meaningful. Arizona State, on the other hand, only 2 losses. And I'm going to be honest. I think right now, Arizona State and Colorado are playing the best football in the Big 12. Now, Arizona State's going to need some help. They need somebody to lose because there's 2 teams ahead of them with 1 loss, and they've got 2. But they're playing really good. So in that regard, it's not all that embarrassing, I guess, that Kansas State lost, but still 24-14. Arizona State's now 8-2. K-State falls to 7-3. They're done. Kansas State had 2 interceptions and a fumble, and that was it. Too much to overcome in a low-scoring game like that. They lose by 10 to the Sun Devils. Which we don't get to talk about very much. So while we are talking, I'd like to point out their helmet, which is one of my favorite helmets that I have. Now, Arizona State, like Oregon, is one of these teams that has 122 different helmets. I think I might have 2 Arizona State helmets, by the way. I know I've got several Oregon. In fact, while we're doing this, because it seems like I don't change the helmets up enough. Oh God, y'all gonna get to see me climb a ladder. Why am I doing this on video? Because I'm dumb. I'm literally climbing a ladder in my closet right now. This is where Uncle Luke look. It's right. All my costumes. Look. All the Uncle Luke costumes hanging up there for the super fans and whatnot. I've also got this Oregon helmet. Here's a regular Iowa State helmet. I've got the blackout Iowa State helmet out there now. I've got a traditional blue and red Ole Miss helmet. I've got the baby blue one out there now. Traditional Gators helmet. I've got a blackout Gators helmet out there now. Oh, this is the ugliest helmet I've ever owned. This is Oklahoma State. It's ugly as sin. I've got the traditional West Virginia helmet. I have an all white West Virginia helmet out there now. I do like this helmet, Oklahoma State, but I've got what I think is a better Oklahoma State helmet out there now. And apparently I was lying about Arizona State. I do not have a different Arizona State helmet. I was lying. So that whole helmet thing we just did was all for nothing and a giant lie. I thought I had a different Arizona State helmet, but I don't. There's the all black Iowa State helmet right there. That I was talking about. And as far as Oklahoma State goes, well, we're way off on a tangent now that nobody cares about. Here's the Oklahoma State helmet I have on the wall, as opposed to the one I just showed you in there. And then again, I have that Oregon helmet there, here. Yeah, right there. Yeah, anyway, none of that matters. What are we talking about? Kansas State, your season is over. Oh, man. How about the Cougs? Washington State in that? The Cougs in that? They lost again. It's only their second loss? Yeah, Washington State is 8-2. The only reason I bring them up, I've mentioned Washington State and Oregon State several times this year. Now, generally, I don't have any feelings, and I'm like, fuck it. You suck, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares. You got left behind. I do feel bad for Washington State and Oregon State. I've talked about it before. I do feel bad for them. They weren't great programs. They also weren't terrible programs. They were decent football programs. And it's like they woke up one morning and everybody was gone and they're left behind with nowhere to go. I just, half the league went to the Big 12, half the league went to the Big 10, and the two of them are sitting around going, I don't know what happened. I do kind of feel bad for them. And Oregon State's not having a great year, but Washington State was having a pretty good year. They've been sitting at one loss for a while, but they toted another L yesterday, and this is not a good one either. New Mexico, who has a lose. So not only is it a Group of 5 team, it's not even a good Group of 5 team. They've got a losing record at 5-6, and they beat Washington State 38-35. That's a bad loss. I want to move on. I feel bad clowning Washington State or Oregon State, at least for this year. I feel like we owe that to them. I feel like we got to give them 1 year where we kind of leave them alone a little. They got done wrong. They got done wrong. You know who didn't get done wrong? Mizzou. Mizzou has been one of the more overrated teams for the course of this season. It is hard to understand how they remained ranked. They were pretty obviously not very good. They had played 2 ranked teams and got blown out by both of them. They had lost. The 2 best teams they had played heading into this weekend were Alabama and Texas A&M, and they had lost those 2 games by a combined score of 75-10. Yet somehow they kept getting ranked in the AP, the playoff ranking, all this. It just made no sense. And I hate it when that happens because the mouth-breathing retard society that thinks all of college football is set up to just secretly benefit the SEC somehow or something, that they were pointing to that as like their evidence that they're right. See, it's all just a shell game to prop up the SEC. And there was really no defense of that because they were right in that Missouri had no business being ranked. See where I draw the line is, or the difference is between me and those Fruit Loop droolers, and this goes for a lot of situations where conspiracies are involved. Sometimes people are just wrong. Would you at least consider that a possibility when you look at a ranking, whether it's the coaches ranking, the AP ranking, the playoff ranking, my ranking? Sometimes people are just wrong, right? There's not always a grand conspiracy behind everything that you disagree with. Would you at least consider that as a possibility, right? The referee shit and the Tennessee fans blaming the referees is the fucking... You got absolutely dominated for the second, third, and fourth quarter, and the Tennessee fans out here blaming the refs for that. You were outscored 31-7 in the second, third, and fourth quarter after you went up 10-0. But anyway, and some of this shit, and back to the Tennessee fan thing, we're complaining about is not even the judgment call. A quarterback is allowed to move pre-snap. How do you not know this? How do you not know that? That they're insistent that because Carson Beck took a step backwards, somehow it should have been a false start. How do you just please know the rules? Just know the rules. That's it. There are a million still frames that you can look at right now on Twitter, Google, whatever, of the Tennessee guy's hand on Dylan, what's his name's face mask. Okay? It was a face mask. It was a face mask in real time when it happened. It was a face mask when they showed the replay on TV. You can clearly see the Tennessee player's hand on the Georgia player's face mask. Now, maybe or maybe not, that is why his helmet popped off. Maybe that's not why his helmet popped off. But you could clearly see the Tennessee player's hand on the face mask of the Georgia player. But even still, if the referees got a call wrong, is there any room in your peanut brain to even consider the idea? Again, if the call is even wrong, that they just got it wrong? No, it's all a conspiracy by the referees, ESPN, and Greg Sankey to prop Georgia up. Now, keep in mind, this is the same Greg Sankey, commissioner of the SEC, who, when handing out schedules last year, put Georgia on the road at Bama, on the road at Texas, on the road at Ole Miss, 3 top 15 teams. By far the hardest schedule in the SEC this year. That same Greg Sankey that did that is now ordering the referees to make bad calls against Tennessee in the Georgia game in November. Make it make sense. Isn't it just possible the referees got a call wrong, if they even did? Come on, man. What were we talking about? Oh, Missouri. So look, the polls are just wrong on Missouri. They're not very good. Y'all call me an SEC homer all the time. I haven't had Missouri ranked in God knows how long. Why? They're not any good. Unlike a lot of the people that vote in these rankings on the AP and the playoff committee, your boy Uncle Lou watches the games. And it was obvious to me Missouri wasn't any good. So now they'll be unranked. They got beat by South Carolina yesterday, 34-30, in probably the best game of the day, honestly. Probably the best game of the day. The BYU game was good at the end. There was a couple other good games yesterday, but for my money, that South Carolina-Missouri game, probably the game of the day. What is this? South Carolina trailed twice in the fourth quarter of that game and came back both times. The last time, of course, with 15 seconds to go in the game to win the game there at the very end. And look, can we talk about our boy Urkel too for South Carolina? Well, Missouri, your season is over. Eli Drinkwitz is approaching clown level 1 million at a staggering pace too. He's done some dumb shit in the past. I let it go a little. You had the thing last year where after they beat Tennessee 100-10, I mean, they just absolutely beat the will to live out of Tennessee last year. Eli Drinkwitz runs out to midfield to shake John Hopeful's hand and looks him in the eye and goes, "We stand on business, Josh." Okay. Have a great day. I don't know what that was about. And then last week they beat the worst Oklahoma team in 25 years. And the first thing Eli Drinkwitz can do is run to a TV camera microphone and start yelling at them about how Missouri's a playoff team. And then you went out yesterday and lost to South Carolina. Thank God. So hopefully you'll shut the fuck up for a while, Eli Drinkwitz. How about drink less? Maybe that might be something you would need to consider. But they lost 34-30, definitely the game of the day. And Urkel, our boy Urkel, the quarterback for South Carolina, just another unbelievable game by him. Do you have 5 touchdowns? Did I write this down? South Carolina. Well, first of all, South Carolina was up 21-6 at halftime. Looked like they were going to cruise to a pretty easy victory. Give Missouri credit. They came back in the second half. And like I said, in the fourth quarter, Missouri took the lead not once, but twice. They took the lead. South Carolina came back, retook the lead. Missouri took the lead again. And then, of course, the touchdown at the with 15 seconds to go gave South Carolina the win. But South Carolina scored 13 points in the fourth quarter to win the game. Now, Missouri, I think, scored 18 in the fourth quarter. But again, they had to come back from that 21-6 deficit. But yeah, Urkel, 353 yards, 5 touchdowns and an interception. And he's a redshirt freshman, I believe. So he'll definitely be back next year as quarterback of South Carolina, and potentially could stay another couple of years. But he's looking pretty good in a year where I think the quarterback play in the SEC is down, generally speaking. That's not to say there's no good quarterbacks in the SEC, so don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But overall, the quarterback play in the SEC has been down. Let's just keep it real. Nico's been a complete disaster and a bust versus his expectations. He hasn't been a bust overall. But compared to the expectations Tennessee fans put on him, he's played at a bust level. Carson Beck has played at a bust level compared to how he played last year. Mildew, very up and down. He's had a couple of really good games in a row. He's also had some terrible games this year. Texas A&M, quarterback hokey pokey again between Wegmer and Reed. Florida, Mertz, Lagway, Werner, back and forth. None of them all that good. We're going to talk more about Lagway in a second. Anyway, Pavia in Vandy might be the best QB. So that's my point. In a down year for QBs, Urkel is quietly putting together a pretty good year there at South Carolina at quarterback. Lenora Sellers, of course, his government name. Urkel, his YouTube name. How about this? South Carolina has now won 4 straight conference games. And the last time they did that was what year? What guess down below? When was the last year South Carolina won 4 straight SEC games in the same season? Anybody know? I'll give you a hint. Steve Spurrier was there. 2012. 2012 was the last time South Carolina won 4 straight conference games. That's what they are sitting on right now, 4 straight conference wins for the Gamecocks. A great game for South Carolina. They're having a remarkable year. They are blowing away expectations. Their over-under win total, I believe, was 5.5 heading into the season. They're currently 7-3. They're liable to beat Clemson in a couple of weeks, too, aren't they? You seen Clemson lately? They played Pitt yesterday. Clemson won 24-20. They look like complete dog shit. You know what it took for Clemson to beat a terrible Pitt team? A 50-yard touchdown run by Cade Klubnik in the last 2 minutes of the game. Clemson's reaching poverty levels we haven't seen there in 15 years. Why? Dabo Sweeney. Dubu was not root. Okay? You better tell Dabo to Google the fucking transfer portal. What you better do. But Missouri, your season is over. Oh boy, this is an interesting one here. LSU. I got in, not an argument, but a discussion yesterday about Brian Kelly and whether or not he's a good coach or a bad coach. Now, those were the only 2 options being discussed. And I stand by what I said. Given those 2 options, good or bad, I'll go good. Bad is Billy Napier. Bad is Neil Brown. Bad is Dave Aranda at Baylor. Brian Kelly is not a bad coach. But he's got some issues right now at LSU that may get his ass run out of town next year if shit doesn't improve a lot. But let me defend myself first with the Brian Kelly's a quote-unquote good coach. Again, this isn't a debate between either good or bad. That's the only two options. Is he great? Is he elite? Is he a top 5 coach? No. I think he might be top 10 or 15, and just hear me out, okay? The guy's had 10? Is it 10? 10 straight 10-win seasons until this year. This will be the first year in 10 years he hasn't won 10-plus games? He's won 10 games or more 10 out of the last 15 years. He has made multiple New Year's Six games. He has made the playoffs multiple times. He made the SEC championship game his first year at LSU. And this is his third year at LSU. And yeah, this is a disappointing year. No question. That was their 4th loss yesterday. Okay? This will be the first year at LSU he hasn't won 10-plus games in the SEC. So I completely disagree with the notion that he's a quote-unquote bad coach. His issues, generally speaking, up until this year anyway, have all resided in the postseason. He's been unable to win anything major in the postseason. 0 for 2 in conference championships. He was the coach at Notre Dame in 2020, the COVID year, when Notre Dame played in the ACC championship game and got blown out. His first year in the SEC at LSU, he made the SEC championship game and got blown out by Georgia. He's lost all the New Year's Six bowls he played in at Notre Dame. That's all well documented. He made the playoffs not once but twice at Notre Dame and lost. So all of the problems are in the postseason. He's been a good to great regular season coach. Great. Is he great overall? No, because you got to win some of those big games, and he hasn't been able to do it. So he's not great. He's not Kirby or Saban or even DeBoer, or he's not Sarkisian even. If you wanted to make an SEC list, he would be behind those people. But I completely disagree with the notion that he's quote unquote bad. I just disagree. I don't think there is a bad coach anywhere that can average over 10 wins a season for 15 years as a Power 5 coach. And that is what Brian Kelly has done. Between his time at Notre Dame and LSU, you're looking at a 15-year period there, and he's averaging over 10 wins a season. Again, he's Mark Richt. He's a lot like Mark Richt. Was Mark Richt a quote-unquote bad coach? No. Mark Richt is headed to the Hall of Fame, College Football Hall of Fame eventually, okay? Was he ever a great coach? No. He wasn't. He missed too many opportunities at great seasons, right? At Georgia, he had multiple opportunities to win a national title and wasn't able to capitalize on any of them. Now, he didn't need to win them all to be considered great, but he would have needed to win at least one. 2002, 2005, 2007, 2008, 2012. Those are all years where Georgia had a team good enough to compete for a national title, and he wasn't able to get it done in any of those years. So was he great? Was he elite? Mount Rushmore of coaches, Mark Richt? No. But nobody in their right mind would look back at what Coach Richt did over 15 years at Georgia and go, that's bad. Nobody. And that's what Brian Kelly is right now. Okay, same thing. But good coaches, look, I just got done telling you Mark Richt was a good coach, right? How did it end for him at Georgia? He got fired. Good coaches get fired all the time, corn dog. And no, Brian Kelly's not getting fired this year. But there are issues there. His personality has become an issue. His relationship with players has become an issue. What is perceived as a lack of accountability on his part has become an issue. He's perceived as one of these coaches that doesn't put enough blame on himself and places too much blame on the players publicly in press conferences. Again, the LSU fans can argue amongst themselves about whether that's true or not. I'm telling you, that's the perception that people have about Brian Kelly right now. And then you've got yesterday's game, which of course was an absolute disaster and failure. If your team lost to Florida this year, you're bad because they are terrible. They're not good. Okay? They're not good at all. Lagway's not good, really, not yet. He might be. He completed 50% of his passes yesterday. It's not like you went out there and let Lagway light you up or whatever. How do you lose that? Florida's got nothing to play for. You did. LSU still had a more than 50% chance of making the SEC title game because of tiebreakers. LSU had all the motivation in the world. Florida had none. And they beat the fuck out of you. This was a bad loss, 27-16. Two different things happened in this game that got me talking about Brian Kelly today, involving two different players, both wide receivers. You might have seen this already. In the first interaction, there's a wide receiver that comes off the field. Brian Kelly gets in his face and is seen, tearing into him. Verbally, yelling, screaming at the top of his, you could tell. And if you read lips, you can tell one of the things that he says, he looks at the kid and he goes, "You are fucking uncoachable." So again, this is less about what he said and more about the way it looked. Okay, completely. All right. Then there's another clip of, I believe it's Kyron Lacey, their elite wide receiver, NFL prospect wide receiver, running off the field towards Brian Kelly. And he is yelling at Brian Kelly. Yelling, screaming, animated. It's not a good look to have your coach either yet being involved with what appears to be just screaming matches with other players on the sideline. What is going on? What is going on? And now you're, whatever you are, 6-4. Bad loss to Southern Cal to start the season. A bad loss to Florida here to bookend the season. They've got a couple more games, but it's over for LSU. They're not making the SEC. The only way LSU was going to get into the playoffs was to win the SEC title, because they had 3 losses before yesterday, but only 2 of them were conference losses. So they were tied with everybody else: Georgia, Tennessee, Bama, Ole Miss, all those 2-loss teams, one of which was going to get in to the SEC title game to play the winner of the Texas A&M game. And it could have been LSU based on the way the tiebreakers work. It was very possible. So they had every reason to show up and play, and they didn't do it. They just didn't do it. And it's starting to become a rocky situation in Baton Rouge for your boy Chip Kelly. And if they don't have, I'll tell you, if they have another season next year like they're having this year, in other words, if they miss the playoffs again next year, it could be bad news for Brian Kelly and his tenure at LSU. Not because he's a bad coach, but because he's not winning enough. And there's other issues going on. The yelling with the players, the accountability stuff in the press conference, all that kind of thing. I don't know. We'll see. Just something to keep an eye on. I already talked about FSU. They're fucking terrible. Obviously, I don't have a Mike Tyson helmet. Fuck. Mike Tyson, your career is over. And here's the thing, Iron Mike. Your career should have been over a long time ago, bud. Like, I get it. Yeah, because I've heard, well, he's a grown man. It's his own decision. He can make his own decision. I get it. And look, I watched it. I'm not going to lie. And I grew up watching Iron Mike fight in the late 80s, all through the 90s. I remember in high school and college, we'd get together and watch the Evander Holyfield fights and the ear biting thing and watching all the 1-minute knockouts. And, we were into it back then. And so I love Mike Tyson. And this was sad to see. Now, Jake Paul, he's a garbage human being. I don't have any use for either of the Paul brothers. The shit they've done over the years is, there's nothing these people won't do for $1. And that's what this was about. It's just, so I have zero respect for Jake Paul for fighting a 60-year-old Mike Tyson. But it was sad to see. It was sad to see, and y'all were joking around about putting Mike Tyson on the Your Season Is Over list. I'm glad Mike Tyson made a boatload of money. I guess $20 million he made. I hope that's enough for him to live on the rest of his days so we don't have to see this type of gimmick again. But shout out Mike Tyson. Probably my favorite boxer of my lifetime. I'm not a huge boxing fan. In fact, I haven't watched boxing regularly since Mike Tyson quit boxing. But anyway, had that on the list, so we'll mention that. We got one more team to laugh at, and it's Nebraska. Remember, they played Southern Cal yesterday. Remember what we were calling that game? That was the who wants to go to a bowl game. Neither one of those teams are bowl eligible. Neither one of them are still bowl eligible. They're both 5-5 now. But Nebraska did lose 28-20 to Southern Cal. In Nebraska, it's got to be infuriating to be a Nebraska fan. Last year, they got to 5 wins with 4 games left in the season, and they lost all 4 of them in a row, or 3, whatever it was. They only needed one more win in the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season to get to a bowl game, which is a big deal because they haven't made a bowl game since, I believe, 2016. And they lost their last 3 or 4, whatever it was, and they missed out on a bowl game. This year, Nebraska started 5-1. Nebraska was 5-1 halfway through October. They only needed one more win to get to a bowl game. 5-1 halfway through October. Here we are halfway through November, and guess what? They still only have 5 fucking wins. Southern Cal beat them yesterday to get to 5 wins. Left on the Nebraska schedule, Wisconsin at home and at Iowa. I don't think they're winning at Iowa. Can they beat Wisconsin? Wisconsin gave it all they had yesterday against Oregon. Maybe they're running on empty now, and Nebraska can catch Wisconsin. It's a home game for Nebraska. If they don't make a bowl game after starting 5-1 halfway through October, you only need one more fucking win. If they lose their last 6 or 7 games in a row or whatever it is and miss a bowl game again, that is a level of, I've just never seen anything like that to happen 2 years in a row like that to a team that's, again, if this was happening to some random team, maybe it's not that big of a deal, but Nebraska hasn't made a bowl game since 2016, and to keep getting this close early in the season, midway through October. Anyway, Southern Cal's at 5 wins too. Can they make a bowl game? They play on the road at UCLA and home against Notre Dame. God. So who do y'all think's more likely to win one of their last 2 games? So here it is again. In order to get to a bowl game, each of these teams needs one more win. Nebraska plays at home against Wisconsin and on the road at Iowa. Southern Cal plays on the road at UCLA and home against Notre Dame. I don't think Southern Cal is beating Notre Dame. I don't think Nebraska is beating Iowa. So it comes down to the next game this coming week. Can Nebraska beat Wisconsin? And can Southern Cal beat UCLA to get bowl eligible? I don't know. What is Lincoln Riley doing? I don't think Lincoln Riley's going to get fired. He should. He never should have been hired. He's not any good. No, I don't think Lincoln Riley's a very good coach. But is he going to get fired? Probably not. Buyout is probably too high. We don't know exactly what it is because Southern Cal doesn't make their contracts publicly available because they're a private institution. But reports and indications are that it's in the high tens of millions of dollars. I think it's more likely at some point Lincoln Riley would quit, whether to take an NFL job or like he did in Oklahoma, just give him one of these and go to a different school. I don't know. But anyway, Nebraska, your season is over. Moving right along at a snail's pace because that's how we do around these here parts. Here's the updated We're Back list. Florida, you're dead last still. I know you won yesterday, but look, the 3 teams ahead of you are still alive for postseason play, buddy. You're not. You're begging to get into a bowl game. So Florida's in dead last. First place on the We're Back rankings. The closest to actually being back. I think it's Miami. The reasons are simple. Just like last week. Miami plays in the ACC. The ACC is not very good. One of the ways you can get off the We're Back list is to win your conference. Miami's most likely going to make the ACC title game, and they'll have a good chance to win it. I've got Notre Dame at 2. They're not in a conference. They're scared to join one. So therefore, it's impossible for them to win a conference. So the only way Notre Dame can ever get off the We're Back list is to win a playoff game. Winning a playoff game is harder for Notre Dame than it would be for Miami to just win the ACC. So that's why I have Miami 1, Notre Dame 2. I've got Tennessee at 3 because they're clearly not winning the SEC. So they're not getting off the We're Back list that way. There is still a chance Tennessee makes the playoffs, in which case they could win a playoff game and get off the list that way. So I've got them at 3. Miami, Notre Dame, Tennessee, and Florida. So again, not necessarily an indication of which teams I think is better. I think Tennessee could beat either Miami or Notre Dame, either one. But I think the chances of this is a ranking of chances of getting off the list. Miami 1, Notre Dame 2, Tennessee 3, Florida 4. Who won yesterday and looked good? Ohio State beat the soul out of another bad team. Penn State did the same, 49-10 over Purdue. Ohio State is rolling. They got Indiana coming up. They beat Northwestern 31-7. They look good doing it. Big game this week for them against Indiana. Penn State looked good against Purdue. Georgia looked good against Tennessee. Good win for Boise State. They struggled early, but they came on in the end and ended up winning 42-24. Good win for Arizona State. They moved to 8-2, still alive in the Big 12. They beat Kansas State by 10. South Carolina, talked a lot about them. Great win. Florida, great win for Florida. Well, Lou, you could dog at LSU. Why is it such a good win for Florida to beat them? Any win Florida gets at this point is good. It's so hard for them to win anything. Any win they get is good. Tulane, 35-0 over Navy, still has a shot. Tulane has a shot to be the Group of 5 playoff team. Tulane most likely is going to play Army in the conference championship game, and Boise State is also highly ranked. It's either going to be Boise State that gets in for the Group of 5, or if Boise State drops a game, it's going to be the winner of the Tulane Army conference championship game. So there you go. That's that. Bad wins. Oregon, what in the world? Is that how bad y'all are going to be without Tez Johnson all the time? Because that was not pretty yesterday against a pretty below-average Wisconsin team. Y'all escaped that one. Good job beating a 5-5 Wisconsin team, 16-13 or something. What in the world? Wow, y'all need to clean some shit up. Texas, 20-10 over Arkansas. Texas defense played really good, but Arkansas's defense is terrible. I mean, really bad. And Texas struggled for a lot of the game here to score points, 20-10 the final score. SMU, 38-28 over a bad Boston College team playing a backup quarterback. You want to be playing your best ball right now, heading into the conference championship games or potential playoffs if you're SMU. That did look like your best ball yesterday. Clemson, 24-20 over Pitt. I already talked about that. Clemson, the Dubu was not Root. So just get that out of here. Dubu was nowhere near Root. The best teams I saw play yesterday, Georgia and Ohio State. Again, I say the same thing every week. I'll say it again. This is the first time in 2 months Georgia's been on this list here in this part of the video of best teams I saw play yesterday. This doesn't have anything to do. That doesn't mean I think Georgia and Ohio State are the 2 best teams in the country. It's got nothing to do with it. Those are just the 2 best teams I watched play on yesterday on TV. Georgia looked really good. Ohio State looked really good. Okay. A lot of SEC teams played middle school teams yesterday. So Bama, it doesn't matter what Bama did. Auburn, doesn't matter what Auburn did. I don't care. You play these middle school teams. Georgia plays one this coming week. Next Sunday in the year season is over video. We won't even mention the word Georgia. I don't talk about teams when they play these elementary schools. I just don't. So those were the 2 best teams I saw play yesterday, Georgia and Ohio State. Heisman, here you go. I've narrowed my Heisman list to 3 people. I don't know how many people they're going to invite. Sometimes they invite 2, sometimes they invite 3, sometimes they invite 4, sometimes they invite 5. I don't know how many they're going to invite. I would invite 3. The 3 I would invite would be Jetworthy, the running back for Boise State, Cam Ward, the quarterback from Miami, and Travis Hunter, the 2-way star for Colorado. Those are the 3 players I would invite to the Heisman ceremony finalist deal. There's 2 other people that could end up being invited. Dylan Gabriel, Jalen Mildew. There you go. Juice Poot special. Oh boy, Tennessee. Hey, I know you're down bad because it would give you a tongue lashing and you can't beat me to save your life. Don't worry. Tune into Juice Poot. I promise you he's going to make Tennessee fans feel better tonight. LSU. I'm only 50-50 on this one. I have a feeling he might not coddle LSU, but this is Juice Poot we're talking about. And I think he's going to try to do the I was right thing about Florida and Billy Napier just because they beat LSU, when clearly he wasn't right. He wasn't right. Florida's terrible and Billy Napier doesn't know what he's doing. This isn't breaking news, not even fake news or alternative facts. Conference championship game predictions. My prediction for the SEC, Texas versus Bama. I think Texas will beat Texas A&M, putting them in the SEC title game. And because of the way the weird tiebreakers work, you're going to have 4 or 5 teams in the SEC tied with 2 losses. One of those teams will play Texas in the SEC title game. Because of the way the tiebreakers work, I think it will be Bama. It basically comes down to conference opponent winning percentage, and I think it'll be Bama. In the ACC, I've got Miami versus SMU. That's my prediction there. In the Big Ten, Oregon versus Ohio State. And in the Big 12, I need help on this one. Some combination of Colorado, Arizona State, BYU, Iowa State. Colorado's got 1 loss. BYU's got 1 loss. Arizona State's got 2 losses. Iowa State's got 2 losses. I'm going to go with Colorado and Arizona State. I think BYU loses again. BYU still has to play at Arizona State. So the winner of that game is probably going. Because BYU's got 1 loss. Arizona State's got 2 losses. If Arizona State beats BYU, anyway, I'm going with Colorado, Arizona State in the Big 12 title game. All right, there you go. Your season is over. Week 12. Look at this. This whole room stinks just because of this one helmet. I'm going to have to air this room out. Tennessee's dumb. I beat the fuck out of Tennessee for the 8th year in a row. The Tennessee fans stand no chance against me. No amount of crying or making fun of my family members is ever going to change that. And it's also not going to keep me off the internet. I'm still going to be here every single year laughing at you fucking inbreeded, hill-jacked Voltards. It's never going to change. Have a terrible fucking day.